I'm grateful to the leadership of the church and the leadership of PEMEM for giving me this opportunity to talk to you today about employability skills and emerging career trends. So from Monday, we've looked at how Isaac prospered during a difficult time. Pastor mentioned that even though Isaac was a son of a rich man, of a blessed man, he went through difficult times. And he was able to succeed, not because of his father's wealth, but because God blessed him. God had promised to bless him, and he blessed him. One thing that I took from that was that I think in verse 12 of Genesis 26, it says that Isaac sowed in the land, and then he reaped 100-fold. Even though there was a famine, he sowed there, he reaped 100-fold. So it's my prayer that as we have this talk, we'll have ideas to also start businesses or start careers that will also reap 100-fold. So I think I have this topic could be broad, or you could limit the scope of it, right? So I try to limit it so that we can follow and make it more practical. So what are employability skills? I always tell a story of when I first started work, right? I studied computer engineering in school, and then by the time I completed, I didn't do any internship. So national service was my first job. I didn't do any internship or attachment anywhere. And however, when I started work, I realized I was quite good at my job. It had to do with project management and coordination. And I even remember one time, one of my senior colleagues asked me, "Did you study all this in school?" And I was like, "No." So even though I didn't do internships or anything, and then most of us realize that what you do at work is not necessarily what you studied in school, right? So as I reflected, I realized that whilst I was in school, I was actually working. Whilst I was in school, I was a publicity secretary for AGCM. So that job, that position involves getting posters done, getting banners done, getting, citations, as well as doing magazines and all those things. So when I was in school, I was doing project management. I was working with people who do design, people who print things and all that. I was managing budgets. I was planning the budget or our spend for the year and all that. I didn't know that I was going to use those skills at the workplace. So when I started working, it's the same thing I was doing, now in a different context. Please change the slide. Next slide, please. Okay. So because of what I was doing in school, I was able to do my job very well. What are skills? Skills are abilities we have. They are capabilities. And then what are employability skills? They are skills that make you employable. So it means that there are certain things you do that can give you a job, right? So like I said, when I was in school, I was coordinating people who do design, work, and doing budgets and all that. It's not the same work I went to do at my workplace, but I used the experience I got from there, the skills I developed from doing that, to be able to do my professional job, okay? And you develop skills by practicing, right? There are different kinds of skills. We'll look at them. As you do something over and over and over, you get better at it. So we all remember when we started driving. I'm sure the first time you sat behind a car, your legs were shaking. And then when you stepped on the road and someone honks at you, you forget what to do. It takes a while before you come back. But with time, your legs stop shaking, or it wasn't frequent, and then eventually it never shook again. You could even drive a manual car very well. So as you do it over and over and again, you get better at it, right? So back to employability skills, right? They are what employers are looking for in a candidate or an employee. They think that if you have these skills, you'll be better at your job. You'll be able to do your job well. Next slide. So when we look at skills, you can either classify skills as soft skills or hard skills. You could also classify skills as transferable, personal, or knowledge-based. So first of all, we'll look at soft skills and hard skills. What are soft skills? Soft skills are skills that tend to be subjective. You can't measure them. You say maybe this person is a good speaker. There's no way to measure a good speaker, right? But based on how the person talks and cites examples and connect things together, you form a picture in your mind that person can speak well. So you can't objectively measure soft skills. And usually use them to describe a person's emotional quotient instead of their IQ or intelligence quotient. So the more soft skills you have, the better you are at people management or working well with people. And then it has to do with who you are. So they are personal rather than what you can do. So maybe you are hired as a doctor. Soft skills would be what makes you a better person, or why should we hire this person as a doctor, not looking at their doctoral skills or what they are going to practice as a doctor. So a doctor will listen to a patient and then diagnose the disease, right? That you say is a hard skill. We'll look at that. You learn that. However, how the doctor interacts with people, how that's people will be the patients and then the other hospital staff. That's his soft skills, how he communicates, whether writing or verbal. Those will be his soft skills. And it's quite difficult to obtain soft skills through training. However, you can be coached to be better at your soft skills. You can be coached, but you can't really learn it. I sit in the class and tell you that, okay, to have empathy, first of all, listen to, these are things you develop from childhood, and you get better at them if you are doing more of it, or if you are conscious about it. But you don't go and learn that to be empathy, do A, do B, do C, do D, no. And then, so what are some examples of soft skills? Obviously, communication is one of them. At the workplace, one other soft skill will be presentation, being able to put together a presentation. We'll look at other ones. The skills, they cut across, right? As in how they are classified. So let's look at hard skills. I mentioned the example of the doctor. How the person carries his being a doctor about, it's something you can measure. Maybe how many patients come to the doctor, and then how many of them does he diagnose correctly? That's one. How many of them are healed based on his prescription? That could be another one, right? Another one could be our brother sitting here. He can play the keyboard. We are looking at hard skills, right? We are looking at hard skills now. So those are, I'm done with the soft skills. So now let's look at hard skills. Hard skills, you learn them, you acquire them through training. So for instance, Ima can play the keyboard because he learned it maybe for 6 months. After learning for 6 months, he plays every Sunday or every other Sunday at church. And the members of PIWC Sakumono can judge whether Ima is a better keyboardist or not because he plays danceable tunes, and I don't know music that much, so I can't give a lot of examples. Yes, so he learned how to play the keyboard. Those of us in the congregation, how many of us can play keyboard? Let me see by hands. You can play. Not like him. But you can play because you learned how to play it, right? And you can't play like him also because you don't play every Sunday, right? Exactly. So hard skills, you have to practice them. You learn them first of all, and then you have to practice constantly to be better at it. And hard skills are what are mostly the core skills required for a specific role. So if you are hiring an accountant, the person should be able to prepare a balance sheet statement. That's a hard skill. He learned accounting in school. Me, I didn't do accounting in school. So if you ask me to do a balance sheet statement, maybe I'll go and Google that and then put some things here. And then you tell me that, but what about this? I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't know about that. But the person who studied this in school knows how to prepare it very well. They know how to talk about it. They know the various components of that. So you learn hard skills in school or through practical training. Soft skills, you develop them from childhood and then you get better at them. Okay. So now let's look at the other ways of classifying skills. The first one is the transferable skills. Transferable skills are skills you can move from one job to another. So maybe you start out as an accountant, and then maybe after 5 years, accounting is boring for you because it's always adding expenses and your income and all that, and it's mundane for you. So now maybe you want to do sales, right? Which of the skills, maybe what skills were you using as an accountant that you can still use as a salesperson? Those are transferable skills. Skills you can move from one profession or career to another. You can transfer them. Okay. So usually, we spoke about hard skills and soft skills. Usually, you can't you can't use your hard skills in another profession most of the time, unless maybe they are adjacent professions. Okay. So if you're a driver, really, you can't use your driving skills to pilot an aeroplane. They are both vehicles, right? But the mechanisms are different. Maybe, I don't know about airplanes, but maybe the only thing you can apply there is braking or something, because when when the aeroplanes land, you have to brake. Maybe. That's the only thing. But apart from that, I don't think there's any other skill you can apply in piloting, right? But as an accountant, I'm sure you're good with math. So as a salesperson, if maybe you're selling a product for maybe 50,000, and your customer wants a 20% discount, right? That would be to say that the products you now have to give to the customer for 40,000. As an accountant, you know about costs and revenue and all that. So with your accounting background, you can do the maths and say that, no, if I give it to you at 40,000, my company is going to lose because it cost us 42,000 to manufacture this. So that skill of being able to calculate things or do accounting even, you've transferred it into sales. If, let's say you're a salesperson, and then now you're a pastor. As a salesperson, you talk to people, you try to convince people, and it's people will listen to you when you connect to them at an emotional level, right? So as a pastor, you were doing this when you were selling. As a pastor, you also need to connect to people at an emotional level, right? So you can transfer that skill you developed whilst you were a salesperson to pastoring, actually. So that's a transferable skill, basically. The next one is personal. Personal skills are things you are, right? They define your personality. So maybe when we say elder or day, maybe at the workplace, they'll say that elder or day is a man of integrity. But maybe somebody else is not a man of integrity. Why is elder or day a man of integrity? Because from childhood or at a certain point in his life, when he accepted Christ, maybe he said that, okay, now I have to be plain. Everybody should see me the same way. When nobody is here, I should behave the same way as when people are here, right? So he's a man of, it's something you identify with him. So these are personal. Things like empathy, patience. People develop them from childhood. You can, personal skills are also soft skills, like we looked at. So you can develop some of these things, but they are very difficult to learn or develop, right? Other than the hard skills are easy to learn. The knowledge-based skills about doing specific things, right? So we spoke about preparing a balance sheet. You know how to prepare a balance sheet by learning how to prepare a balance sheet. You know how to drive by learning how to drive. These are knowledge-based skills. They are things you learn in school or through formal training. So we've looked at soft skills and hard skills. We've looked at transferable, personal, and knowledge-based. Next slide, please. Now, which of these skills are employable or employability skills? If we say employability skills, I mentioned earlier that they are skills that employers are looking for in employees. They are skills that make employees a culture fit. When someone is hiring you, they want to make sure that when you come into their company, you'll be able to work well with the people there. Every company has a culture. Where there are people, you develop a culture. And companies don't play with their culture. I'm sure each one, those of us in corporate, when you started working in the private, let's say a private institution, they tell you, over here, we are this, we are like that, we are like that. Everybody should show these behaviors. Companies don't play with this. So employability skills are skills that employers will want to validate to make sure that when you come in, you'll be able to work well with the others. So employability skills are not hard skills. They are mostly soft skills, and they are also transferable skills, and they are also personal skills. They are not hard skills or knowledge-based skills. So it means that if, let's say I'm a man of, there may be 5 different jobs. Let's say there are 5 jobs, right? One is a bank teller. The other is an accountant. The other is a salesperson. The other job is a marketer. And then maybe the last job is a customer service rep. These are 5 different jobs. But there are certain skills that will cut across, right? In all of these jobs, you should be able to communicate well. In all of these jobs. In all of these jobs, you should have empathy or some level of empathy, right? In all of these jobs, you should be able to influence, right? So these skills cut across various jobs. Right now, we say that it's very difficult to get a job, right? Before you get a job, first of all, you have to have these employability skills. And then secondly, you need to have the hard skills you learned for that specific job you're applying for. So these employability skills, they cut across most jobs. And every company will have a set of skills they will want to see in the employees based on their culture and even maybe the role they are hiring for. So communication is very important. When I started, so back to my national service, I did computer engineering in school. And my workplace, they had about 12 different departments. So they're supposed to put me in one of those divisions. And I was thinking, okay, they'll put me in IT or networking, right, because of my background. And that would mean that I'll be an engineer and I'll be behind my computer. And then when they come, want you to do this, and then I do it, and I send an email, done. That would be it. That's what I thought. Then it came, and then they put me at business solutions. And in business solutions, you deal with business customers. And so in my job, you need to deal with customers, you need to deal with engineers in the company, you need to deal with contractors. So these are three different people. If I were an engineer, I would only be dealing with maybe the people in the company and taking orders that you should do this, or we've gone to solve this, so do it, right? But now I have to work with all these three different kinds of people. And when you do their job, you have to go and tell all of them that I have done their job, or this has been done. So it was, if I had my own way, I'd just be sitting by my computer and do my job. But then I realized that, no, when I started working, I realized that telling people about what you are doing is important as doing the job. So if they ask you to do maybe send, go and give PIWC internet. You don't just go and give the internet and then come and sit down. When you give the internet, you have to tell PIWC that I have given you the internet, or I'm even on my way to come on this day to come and give you the internet. After doing that, you have to report to management or the sales team that you have done it, and you use maybe 3 days to do it. After doing that, then you also have to tell the engineers that, okay, everything has been done, so now we can close this particular job. After all that, now you have to report on how well you are doing the job. So maybe it's taking me 3 days to fulfill customer requests. All this involves communication, involves reporting, involves telling people about whatever is being done, right? Analytical reasoning. Companies are looking for people who do not just take instructions or don't just take feedback, right? But they're able to reason through it and make decisions based on that. So if we say maybe a customer, if maybe there's an issue, right? Why is this issue happening? Has it happened to other people? Why is it happening to people in a specific area? What conclusions can we draw from that? Should be able to use data to draw conclusions. It's one of the, and this thing is one of the slides we'll talk about later, right? There's also critical reasoning. You should have a systematic way of reasoning. These are things that people are looking for, and when they are interviewing you, they look at all these things in your answers or the past work you have done. Willingness to learn. We are in a blessed time, right? There's always something new. What that also means is that things you know today may change, right? The last time I don't know why I'm talking about accounting a lot today when I don't know anything about accounting. So the last time, I think the accounting standard is FSR or something. What is it? What is this, Pastor? IF? Okay. And what's the current standard of that? What's the current standard? Which year? I think they have years, right? Pastor, shall I bring you the mic? What's the current standard? Which year was it? Which year?
Let me even give a much more current situation in the accounting world, where we are now moving much more into blockchain. Situation whereby people just want not just accounting for the normal things that happens, but accounting for abstract things and things that happen online and so on and so forth. And that is where this issue of cryptocurrency and those things are coming up. And you can see that a number of the professional bodies are now moving towards there to train people so that they can be able to move on. So surely things are just changing all the time.
So what Pastor is saying is that if you learned accounting in 1995, I'm not sure you can practice accounting now, right? Things have changed. And I'm in the IT industry, and there's always something new, right? It's the same way your WhatsApp. WhatsApp launched in 2009 or so, right? And those who started using WhatsApp, you can see the changes. I think one of the latest changes is that now on your status, you can add a voice note, right? This was launched like 2 months ago. Before, you couldn't do that, right? Before, even I think 6 years ago, you couldn't add a status on WhatsApp, right? Good. So as time goes on, there are new changes coming. And it's in every aspect of work, right? When COVID struck, people now have to learn how to do online meetings and how to behave during online meetings. This wasn't the case in 2019. Now, all of us know how to use, those who know how to use computer, you use Word and all that, right? But now, nobody installs Microsoft Word. It's used in a browser. Things are changing. And these are even very simple things. So you can imagine some of the advanced technology is changing, how work is done is changing. So if you are stuck in your old ways of doing things, you'll be unemployed. That's the truth. Okay. The next one is managing ambiguity. You find out that most work involves, or some aspects of almost every work involves the unknown, some uncertainty, right? There's no clear way of moving forward. And you need to know how to come out of such situations. You need to know how to progress, even when you don't have all the information. So these are skills that people are looking for, companies are looking for. And so when they are interviewing you, they ask you questions like, tell me about a time when you had to do something and you didn't have all the information available, and how did you do it, and what was the result? These are practical questions you ask in interviews. They want to see if you're able to manage the unknown or ambiguity. You need to know how to present. Like I said, when you are doing work, you need to tell people about the work you are doing. Collaboration, this is very key. You remember I said that I thought I was going to be an engineer where I only accept work and do it and then go my way, right? Talk to my computer. But then I have to work with other people to get work done. And you find out that most work these days is about working with other people. You don't just sit on your own and then work. So you need to know how to work in a team or collaborate with others. You need to know how to influence, to persuade people, negotiate. For most parts of my work, I need to get people I have no control over to do work for me. And I'm sure most of us would attest to the fact that in the workplace or in a professional setting, sometimes you need to go to another department to get somebody to do work for you. How do you get them to do the work for you if you can't negotiate or influence them? They will tell you that, oh, my team, we only have 3 people. And because of this project and that project, everybody is at capacity. So how do you get your work done if the person you need is occupied or preoccupied with other things? You need to know how to influence others. You need to know how to manage people you don't have management oversight on. And then leadership, the last but the most important one. You need to know how to take initiative, right? You need to be able to be trusted. You should be reliable. And you should be dependable as well. Next slide, please. Okay. So now I've been talking about skills and all that. In this current world, what skills do you need to get a job? Right? Now it's a digital world, and everything, you realize that in every company now, there's IT. IT is everywhere. If even the last I was going to buy Kiliwili, and then I realized that a boat's food cycle had parked by the Kiliwili. It's come to pick an order and then go and deliver to somebody, right? So even now, the Kiliwili seller is using boat's food. This wasn't available, or this wasn't even thought of in the past. But now it is accessible to everyone. So I just picked a few skills that are in demand in the digital world. And this is not, you don't need an IT background or an engineering background for these skills. There's another slide which has the IT one. So these are for people who did like administration and other courses in getting work in the modern world. Okay. So the first one is user experience design. You realize that there are apps for everything now, right? You have people whose job is to sit and analyze how you are going to use the app. That's the job they do. And define that process for you. That's okay, if Peace takes this app, how would Peace use it? Would she know that I need to click this to be able to do this? So there are people who do this, and they combine usability with their creative thinking, and of course, it should be viable. I mean, you should make the business money. You don't just do things for the sake of doing, right? You should get money at the end of this. So there are people whose job are to create this experiences for people. Some of them have business background. Others have a background in graphic design or design. Then there's digital marketing, where you use digital channels like social media and email to sell your products. And you find a lot of these people in a corporate setting, because at the end of the day, you need to be able to reach your target market. And a typical example would be that you would be on Instagram, and then you see an ad, or based on what you are watching, you see maybe buy a laptop or a phone, right? There are people, there's a technology for that, but there are people who use that technology to reach their end users. And when you also enter something in Google, right, you always see that some results come up on top. Some are sponsored, others just come up on top. So you need to pay Google for Google to show the sponsored one. But those that come up on top, there's a way to design your site such that your results come up on top when somebody searches for, maybe you sell Kiliwili. When somebody says for Kiliwili in Ghana, Bright's Kiliwili should come on top. There's a way to design your website and add some details to it to get that done. That's what digital marketers also do, right? They make your sites visible. And they also know about data, how to analyze data, because now everybody is using apps and phones and all that, and that also brings a lot of data. You need to know how to analyze the data to make your next move. Then there's agile project management. The WhatsApp example I gave, right? You realize that WhatsApp didn't start with status or anything like that. They keep adding that. A few years ago, that was not possible with project management or even software, right? You need to do everything and bring it to the customers. So for instance, the Word we're using, or Office, PowerPoint, you install an application. And then after 6 months or 1 year, now there's an update. So there's a project management for that. That's I won't say old, but that's a method for managing such projects. Now, every week, WhatsApp is releasing a new status, a new update. Some of the updates you don't even know about that they've released it, but they release it all the same. There's a way to manage projects such that you continually add features and get value from them. So that's agile project management, and that's the world we are in now. Most of the software projects need to manage them in an agile way, and so you have people that know about these things and manage software in such a way. Then now the IT. The first one is software engineering. This is where you call people programmers and developers or coders and all that. They sit down and write code, and then they create an app. That's a very high-paying job. And all the other fields I have mentioned, there's software engineering in those, in that. So it means that in the modern IT world, learning how to program is a fundamental skill. You can apply it in other IT fields. Then the next one is data and artificial intelligence, and then also machine learning. They're all different things, but I put them together for the sake of this presentation. There's a lot of data now for companies, and they need to be able to analyze their data. And those of you who know how to use Excel, those charts and things, the size of data people have, you can't use Excel to analyze them. So there are various tools to use and to analyze this. So you have data analysts who analyze data. You have data scientists. They go a step further. They write programs to actually analyze data. Then machine learning and AI is where now you take the data and then you say that based on all this data I have, can you predict something for me? So companies can now better forecast because they have maybe a 20-year data on their revenues, right? So in that forecasting, realize that every January, maybe revenue drops by 10% because people are still on vacation or something. So now you can create a model that will tell you that, okay, this January, let's say we're in December, or even next January, you are going to make this amount of money. And the accuracy is very high because the computer has used data you have from the past with other data to predict that for you. There are lots more applications for this. How many of us have heard of ChatGPT? Like GPT, yes. So when they released that application, within 5 days, they've had like 1 million users. And that's the fastest time for an application to get the amount of users. And what does ChatGPT do? ChatGPT can write. So in December, for instance, what have I used ChatGPT for? Sometime in December, it was my friend's birthday. And I was in the mood to write a birthday message. So I went to ChatGPT and told ChatGPT, can you write a birthday message for a lady, this profile, that. And then very solid message. And then I sent it to the person. And thank you, God bless you, as if it came from me. But that's ChatGPT. Other people have used ChatGPT to write speeches. You don't even know that it's a computer that wrote it. So this, and then in my final slide, you see something I did with ChatGPT also. So enough of machine learning and then AI. Now to cloud. Cloud computing is where companies now don't need to buy their own computers or servers, but they can rent computing resources from other people. Now you have internet, so you connect to the computers you have bought from somebody else over the internet. So you don't need to have like a data center with servers And in Ghana, you have Doomso and all that. You don't need to worry about all that. Somebody already has a lot of servers, and then you can pay for it on demand. So that's cloud computing. And in that field too, there are lots of jobs. And so these are very high-paying jobs. These jobs pay in excess of $100,000 in the US. So these are very high-paying jobs. Then cybersecurity. Now that everybody's using apps and computers and phones and all that, you need to find ways to secure your data. So cybersecurity professionals, they are in charge of making sure that the company's networks and systems are secured and that nobody can hack into them. Then software as a service. So I mentioned that Microsoft Office now is not an app on your PC again. It is accessible over the internet. So any app that is accessible over the internet, like Microsoft Office, is a software as a service product. And there are lots of products like that. So some companies use softwares like Salesforce and others for customer relationship management. So knowing how to use this specific software is also a skill in demand. Next slide, please. Now, these are some skills we've looked at. Let's look at some emerging career trends. Companies are no longer hiring based on what you studied in school. They are hiring based on what you can do. So what I spoke about on hard skills, soft skills, transferable skills, and personal skills, as well as knowledge-based skills, these are what they are looking at. So if before they were saying that, okay, you should have a degree in computer science, now they are not looking for that. Can you program in this language? Can you design a system in this? If you did philosophy in school and you can program, come and program. Let's see. So in your job application process, before they interview you, there'll be a skills assessment program test. They ask you to program something and then you write it. If it's a design, they ask you to do it, right? And if you pass that, that's now where they are going to interview you. And most of the times, the interview is based on the employability skills. They are going to check whether you can work in a team, whether you have leadership skills and all that, how you manage conflicts. So interview is for employability skills. But before you get to the interview, you should have proven your skills, the hard skills or even some of the soft skills. Next slide, please. Then I mentioned analytics. Now, almost every job, you need to know how to analyze data because companies are collecting data through various means. Those that have apps are taking data from their customers. Those that have physical stores, when you go there, they are taking data. So, for instance, when you go to the bank, you select what you want to do, right? Yes. So with that, some of them can track how long you are spending in there. Yeah, among other things, right? They track what customers are purchasing and then also what they are saying on social media. So before, you were analyzing all this in different silos, right? So maybe what they are saying on social media is one analytics, right? The transaction is also another one. But now you need to bring all this together to make meaning of your customer's experience. And then based on this, you can suggest new products or new and better ways to serve them. So the skills in data literacy skills are very important now. You need to know how to bring together different kinds of data and use that. There are tools for doing all these things. So you need to learn these tools on how to analyze data from different sources. Next slide. So before, companies were placing emphasis on functions. Like, okay, this department is in charge of finance. This one is in charge of maybe IT. This one is in charge of customer service. That is changing. Now they are building teams. So instead of a whole function in charge of IT, now you have a team that has somebody who knows about IT. somebody who knows about customer service, somebody who can do business analysis, somebody who has a finance background. And this team is responsible for maybe one product or one service, right? That is where they are moving to. Now, what does this mean? First of all, there's ownership, because you don't go to another department and then they tell you that we are busy with this and that, right? The team is responsible and has everybody they need to deliver the service, right? So it makes them faster. And then also what it means is that there's a lot of collaboration and a lot of skills cut across. So at work, I lead a development team, right? So sometimes I go and then I have an idea. Can we do this thing this way? They're like, okay. Then the next day, they come. They say that, but if we do it this way, it means that this and that will have a problem here. And then it may even affect the customer experience. And this is somebody whose job is not about customer experience or anything like that, but based on the tax or the job at hand, he realizes that, no, if I do this thing this way, it's going to affect that. So what it means is that now it's not only one person thinking about a problem, but everybody in the team makes it their business because they are responsible for it. The next slide. Now there's flexibility, right? So the last time, they sell this porridge in my area, and then I think it was around 9:05. I was going to buy the porridge. And then after I bought it, I saw another church member also going to buy the porridge. And then the church member asked me, hey, won't you go to work today? I was like, oh, I'm working from home. And I'm even on a meeting. So I even showed him my phone to show that I was on a Teams call. And I was buying cocoa at the same time. So now there's that flexibility. You don't have to be at work and for 8 hours or more. Yesterday we were talking about work-life balance. And this flexibility means that you have more time to do other important things in life, right? Like family and then come to church. One of my colleagues at work asked me, how am I able to come to evening service all the time? And one of the reasons is that most of the time I work at home, from home. If I go to the office, sometimes I may even come home after 7, and I'll not be able to come to church. But because I work from home most of the time, I can come to church in the evening. What that means is that you have to do the work. You have to make the impact you need to make at work. That's the most important thing. It's not your presence at work that means you are working. It's your output. So if you are home and you work better, or you can even deliver a higher output than in the office, companies appreciate that. And for me, one of the reasons why let's say maybe I can work well from home is I don't need to commute to work and maybe come back and then sleep late and all that, right? So when I wake up, I'm fresh. I don't need to spend 2 hours in traffic to get to work, and I'll start thinking. That traffic stress alone may hinder your productivity. But in a very relaxed environment, you can even deliver better. So some companies are embracing this. Others also have seen that people are abusing it, and so they want their employees to come to the office. And most companies too have adopted the hybrid model, right? Where maybe some days you come to the office and then other days you work from home. One other thing that is very common these days is outsourcing. It's been there for a very long time, but it's still very common. So outsourcing is where a company will relieve part of the work they were doing and give it to another company. And that will mean that the people in the company that were doing that particular job now have to leave the company. So companies would typically do this to focus on their core business or cut costs. So let's say if we are hiring all of you here, and maybe you are doing customer service, and in the month we are spending 100,000 on all of you. When I outsource, I can pay 50,000 and get the same job done, and I say 50,000. Now I don't have to care about your medical insurance. It's somebody else's problem. So it's quite profitable for businesses to do that. Next slide, please. So one of the things that's becoming common now is freelancing. So at first, it was just a few people doing freelancing, right? But now even in professional settings, there's freelancing. There are sites that will post jobs, and they are looking for freelancers to do, and then you do, and then they pay you. So this is becoming a common thing with working professionals with such skills. The emphasis is on skills. If you have the skills, you can apply for them. So now let's look at a place where work is flexible. Maybe your primary employer, the work is flexible. What it means is that now professionals are also taking other work as side gigs, right? They are doing galamsey. And some companies allow it. Most companies don't allow their workers to do galamsey or moonlight. So, but it's one of the things that is coming up. And because we are talking about emerging trends, I would like to add that most people are now not even interested in secure jobs where you are employed fully and then you go 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 and then you get paid and you have insurance and all that. No. They like some of these jobs because it's flexible and it also pays well. So people are now opting for options like this. Next slide, please. So, in conclusion, we are in very uncertain times, and also technology is taking care of a lot of jobs, or taking over a lot of jobs, right? I mentioned ChatGPT earlier. There are lots of other tools. Was it yesterday or so I read that someone won the award for best photographer, and then he rejected it because that picture was generated by an AI, a computer. He didn't take a picture. It was generated by a computer. So he says he doesn't deserve the award because he didn't take that picture. And there are lots of tools.
One, two.
Thank you. So there are lots of tools like that nowadays, and there are going to be a lot more. What that means is that some work will be replaced. But then there's this lady, Ginny Rometty. She used to be at IBM. What she said is that some people call this artificial intelligence, but the reality is that this technology will enhance us. So their focus is on enhance, not replace. So instead of artificial intelligence, I think we'll augment our intelligence. So I gave you the example of where the AI generated the birthday message for me, right? If maybe I thought a certain line wasn't so great, I could change it. By the end of the day, it was the AI that generated the message, and then I have to just do a little editing, right? So AI is here to enhance and not replace. It's supposed to make our jobs efficient. Now, back to ChatGPT. I asked ChatGPT, or someone asked ChatGPT, what are 20 jobs you can replace? And then ChatGPT listed these 20 jobs over here. Some of the jobs in there are data entry, travel agents, customer service rep, receptionist, copy editor, translator. You guys use, anyone use Google Translate or any of those translate services? They do a very good job. And even said graphic designer, because there are sites that You can put in your text and all that, and it will design a very nice graphic for you. However, like I said, AI is here to enhance us and not necessarily replace us. It's supposed to make our work better. The good thing about, one of the things about AI too is that it's brought about, or it will bring about a lot of high-paying jobs. So it will take out a lot of the low-entry jobs or the jobs that are easy to do and we're not paying that much. But it will also bring about a lot of jobs that pay a lot and require special skills. So in these difficult times, these are the times where you should be preparing to learn, or you should learn these skills, because these are difficult times, and it won't always be difficult times. By the time you finish learning these skills, a lot of opportunities will be available, right? So that's the conclusion of my talk. I'll pause here for questions because I said a lot, and maybe somebody will want to ask a question. So, okay. Do you have another mic?
Issues coming up these days is making us afraid that we are being robbed. Let me see. MTN was mentioning this SIM registration issues. People are using it. You have a number on your chip, but you realize that other people are using the number as this. So it's becoming very scary. And we don't know what IT industry is doing to protect us. Because, as you said, times are changing and it's becoming scarier. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll answer the question generally. Security professionals will say that security is a two-way street, right? So it's the responsibility of the service provider, and then it's also your responsibility. So in terms of SIM registration, if people are registering their SIMs with your Ghana card, what it means is that they have access to your Ghana card. So your responsibility is to protect your Ghana card. Make sure you don't give your Ghana card to anybody. If you are giving it to somebody, then the person is maybe registering your SIM or needs it to, as part of KYC for maybe a banking service or for a SIM service and all that. If you have pictures of your Ghana card on your phone, you should put a lock on your phone. Now, most phones have fingerprints and those things. Those are some of the ways you can protect it. The main one is that make sure nobody gets your Ghana card. Or if you are giving your Ghana card to somebody, make sure you are there and watching whatever they are doing with it. So that is what you can do. And then the service providers also have a responsibility to make sure that the data you've given to them, nobody access it in an unauthorized manner. So it's a two-way affair. That's the little I can say in relation to that.
Yeah, praise the Lord. I think it has come out that, when the registration started, because they hire a lot of people to do that for them, it has come out that those who registered us, some of them deliberately registered some with, like, if my name is Papa Isian, you start my process. And as it's about to get to the end, they will tell you there's a problem. So they will restart again. And that is where that problem started. Because we were all fighting to register, we didn't even notice. And now it has come out that those guys that they were hired used that strategy to register a lot of SIM with our names. And that's the problem. I think they've reported to the NCA, and I think they are working on it. Yeah, it's very scary, actually, because the person who happened to see this, saw that his phone, his card is tied to about 10 SIMs, which he is not the owner. So I think that they are working on it. I don't know how.
Okay. You want to ask? There's another question.
I have a question, but I just wanted to add to.
Okay.
I think we are in the age of data, and people are collecting data instead of probably buying them. They are trying to get it in the cheapest possible way as possible. For example, where I did my last voters registration, you go through the Electoral Commission's process, and when you are exiting, they have 2 books there. They tell you to write your name, phone number, name. So, unfortunately for me, I finished writing my name before I asked them if it was part of the EC's requirements. Then they said no, it's the political parties that are taking it. I'm sure they are waiting till December, thereabout, then they'll start flooding you. So, as much as possible, when you are giving your data out, I've been fighting Vodafone for 5 months now. Fridays, I don't know how they got my number, but every time they have a program, they send me a message. You see, so they try to find cheap ways of, so as much as possible, you should also protect how much data you let out in this day and age. My question now is, you mentioned a lot of jobs that are high paying, right? For example, I've been introduced to systems information,
Okay.
and I know those things are paying well. When will it descend and come to Ghana? Because most of these programs out there are paying very, very, like 150,000, 130,000 USD and all that.
Yeah.
But Ghana, it's like the people doing it, they are sitting at Ministry of Defense and just checking and that is like maybe 5,000, 6,000 cedis.
Yeah.
So when will it descend to the promised land?
I knew this question will come up. So we all attest the fact that we don't have a lot of businesses in Ghana. That's one. And even the businesses we have don't have a lot of money to spend on some of these technologies and all that. And so that's the situation in Ghana. And on Monday, Pastor was saying that people are moving out, almost every profession, and it's because of some of these things, right? However, there are lots of, since COVID, now remote work has become the norm. And so you have people sitting in Ghana and then working for companies in UK or US or Canada or Australia. So, and then also when I got to the freelance slide, you realize that there were some companies there that also will post jobs for freelancers. So if you have these skills, you can apply with them, and then they take you through the screening process, and if you pass, they give you some of these jobs. So you don't have to go to the US or wherever. You can sit here, and then with reliable internet, you can work remotely for some of these companies. As for Ghana, we pray that things will change, and then a lot of them will become applicable. And I'm sure somebody too will be asking, so how do we learn some of these skills, right? Most of them are available online for free. Those that are paid for, there are sites that charge you $50 or even less to teach you some of these things. If you don't have that money, you can also go to YouTube and then learn some of these things. At the end of the day, companies are looking for skills, and you learn some of these hard skills by practicing and then doing, right? So whichever channel you can get access to some of these courses, please do, or for your children and relatives as well. So instead of watching Netflix and all the other things, you can be focusing on learning some of these skills online.
Yeah. So please, I think we are taking the last 4, and then we are done.
Good evening. I have just two questions. My first one is, I'd wanted to see the ChatGTP, the professions it was replacing, just to make sure my profession is safe. If you could bold in it, so that I start preparing for my future.
Which profession?
I'm an educationist.
Okay, so
Am I safe? Or my students can learn online?
Technology is changing. What I can say is that right now you are safe.
Okay. Then also in a developing country like Ghana, where you have about 70% of the population, I'm saying, not computer literate, how can you suggest, maybe as a church, what can we do to help our church members meet up with the world in current situation in the world? Because a lot of us say we are computer literate. I interview people, they are computer literate, and all they know is Microsoft Word, and that is their computer literate. So even to go on YouTube to learn some of these courses, how to find their way out, to be a problem. Yes, a few days ago I had an issue with a friend. She was doing a presentation on Zoom, and she didn't know how to share a screen. I spent over an hour trying to get it. It was quite frustrating. And so I wonder, in a country like Ghana, how can we meet up when our basic computer skills are not there? What do you suggest the church can do for its members to help all of us?
Okay. So I think we answered the first question, right? You are safe for now. Okay. Then for computer literacy, I remember when I was growing up, there was this concept of computer school. People go to computer school. I think they were learning what Word and typing and those things. maybe speaking, you know. The good thing with our children now is that once they are growing up, they have tablets and they start using their apps and all that. Sometime last week, my computer wasn't working. And when I realized it was after 8, so I couldn't go to the office to get it fixed. So what it meant was that the whole day I was going to work from my phone. So I worked the whole day from my phone. Sending emails, doing meetings, analyzing data, everything from my phone. Yes, it's a smartphone. It's a smartphone. That's Samsung S21. So, so yes. But to answer your question, like PMM Week, we are talking about emerging career trends and employability skills. We can have some of these sessions as well for people who are not computer literate. And then the thing with computer is it's a lot, but you have to start from somewhere. And when you start, you realize that the skills are transferable. You can move from maybe learning how to type to you use that typing in writing a report. After I use that same one in presentation and all that. So it's you keep adding and then becoming better. So we can organize such programs as a church. Sometime last week, I think Pastor posted about ALX program and all that, right? So when we also find some of these opportunities, we can share on our WhatsApp group. Romeo, the instrumentalist, he does very well with some of these things. Every opportunity or job he sees, he'll post on their youth platform. So we can also, when we see some of these opportunities, we can share on some of these platforms. And then I think when he was introducing me, he said as an organizer for AWS user group, AWS is a cloud service provider. That's Amazon Web Services. And what the user group does is basically organize programs teaching people about cloud. So most of our members, they don't know anything about cloud. Some of them are not even IT professionals and all that, but they are interested, and then they join to learn some of these things. And some of them have gotten employment from joining such groups. And when you join such groups, you meet other people who already know what you are learning, and when you have any issues, you can reach out to them, and then they help you also. So there are lots of opportunities out there. And now what you see is that one thing I didn't talk about is when you go to the developed countries, right, they have a problem. And the problem is that they have a lot of jobs, and people are not qualified to do their jobs. It's a problem. So you see maybe US unemployment is under 5%, but they have a lot more open roles than the people who don't have jobs. And there are no people to do the jobs. And that's why they are looking at Africa now to get people, and they are poaching, among other things. So there are lots of opportunities out there, but the people with the skills are not there. And it takes a lot of time to learn some of these things, right? But you have to be consistent and do them to be able to acquire such skills. And so I've answered your question. I think he had a question.
So please, you take the two together.
Okay.
Then you answer. Then you go.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And I heard you mention skills in the digital world. And I saw something like cyber security. You didn't deal with that. And so I'm expecting you to say something, because this is a security and things are changing. And the fraudsters too are using that to mess up with us, because they know that we are not intelligence. And so they are more experienced than us. Then my second one is, these days, the theater you do, you have to go online. Those doing marketing online, those who are saying, take up this app and do this business. I went to ECG, and when I saw the queue, I decided to take up their app. Then I went online in the office. I filled everything, requested for my Ghana card number and everything. Now, people are smarter than us. After I finished all these things, my bankers called me, and they told me, why should I release my information to somebody? I said, oh, no. It's something I feel online with the ECG app. I said, look, people have hacked my account. I said, no, I don't know anything about it. So if you can advise us by using our Ghana card online, if you can advise us, thank you.
Okay, yes, I will. This question, I've been thinking about it for ages. I think you've answered part of it. Those of us who are trained in traditional skills, I'm a quantity surveyor, and in Ghana, the SMM7, which UK people brought, they have stopped using it long ago. But we are still using the SMM7, and that's what I was taught in the university, you understand? And work pertaining in Ghana, I can't go and learn any other code to practice than to learn the SMM7. You get me? Now, I'm in the construction industry, mortar, concrete, block work. People like us, how do we innovate? How do we apply technology and all that so that we are relevant? Because we know that, yes, with time, maybe in Ghana, a better chance that people will clear us off. But our fear is that we could easily get extinct because a lot of the fine skills, the things I do estimate. Now you can put the drawing in the software, and within minutes, it has produced a bills of quantities. I will sit down for 1 week and go by first principle to prepare. People like us in this industry, where do we go from here? Please help us.
Okay. So I think your first question was about cybersecurity. And in answering one of the questions, I mentioned that security is a two-way affair. One is for the service provider, and then the other one is you. you realize that most of the time, all the security issues are because the person wasn't vigilant enough, or is a fault maybe originated from the person whose information has been compromised, right? So for instance, in this case, he gave his data to someone he's not supposed to give. I like what Sama said about asking the question of, what is this data for? Most of the time, we receive messages from people we have not given our numbers to. And how do they get our numbers? We are going to an office building to visit somebody or meet somebody in an office building. They ask you to put down your details, and then you put it down in a book. Somebody can take that book and then harvest all of those numbers, and now you are the target for whatever they are marketing. Online, now every site you visit, they tell you about cookies and all that, accept these cookies. Most of us will just go and accept. And then after you do that, you realize that you're browsing a site, and then all of a sudden you start seeing shoes because you went to search for shoes somewhere. Yes, because you allowed your cookies for, let's say, advertisements and sharing with other people, they've shared your data with somebody else, and that person is now advertising to you what you are interested in. So we have to be very careful on behalf of the service provider. They'll say, okay, I told you, and then you said I should share your details, right? So you said that you should share my details, and then you did. So anywhere you are providing your data, whether physically or online, you should ask the question, what is this data for? And is it necessary to give this information? I remember one time we were working on a certain app, and then the permissions requested location was sparse. Now, one of my bosses was like, why should I provide my location to use this app? Is it necessary? I won't provide it. So because he asked that question, and we realized it wasn't necessary, it had to be taken off. So we should be very careful of where we give our data. So, for example, today I received an email which said it was from our cybersecurity team, and they have launched, I can't give too much details, but they have done something, and I should use it to do a certain test, right? When you check the email address, it looks like it's from our cybersecurity team and all that. But it's actually, so some companies will actually do traps to teach you that when you respond to such emails or click on such links and all that, you are giving your information out. So when you do that, and then it's like they've caught you, so they tell you that this was it's called phishing, a phishing attempt, and so you should be very careful and all that. So if I was in a hurry, I would have just clicked on the link, and then my data will be compromised, right? It happens all the time. This is how people get your information. They send you emails impersonating other people. Who saw the video of the SIC MD who said somebody was taking his salary? Who saw that video? Or because someone sent an email that looked like his email and changed his bank account details. And the only way he realized this was that one day he was signing or approving salaries, and then he checked, and he realized that for his salary, he's going to a certain bank account. I'm sure he's a rich man, so if the money doesn't hit his account, he doesn't know. So he saw that, no, the bank account over there is not his bank account. Then he had to go to HR, and they showed him a mail which came from him. And it looked like his email, but one character had changed. So we should be very careful. A lot of us just go provide our data, but we should be very careful. And then I believe all I've said will answers your question, right? And then innovation in non-technological fields, right? It's a difficult one. One thing, but what I've seen people do, right? The last time I saw a video of a midwife who they said had invented some new way of delivering. Yes, and delivering babies, yeah. And she was demonstrating it. I didn't pay attention, but that is what she had done. And I was like, wow. And she's Ghanaian. I think I should go and look for the video. And I was like, wow. So, personally, right, yesterday when Pastor was talking about hard work and all that, in my head, I was shaking my head. I was like, no, not me. I don't like hard work. I don't want to work 8 hours. If you give me work 8 hours, I have to find ways and means to do it in 4 hours. And then have the rest of my time, right? So because of that, Pastor was mentioning operations. I have an unspoken covenant to not do any job in operations because you never know peace, right? You never, you get, and Mr. Okan was attesting to that yesterday, right? So there are certain jobs you not know peace and all that. So what am I trying to say, right? In my job, I find ways to make things easier, simplify them. But that's technology, so it looks easier. In your field, I'm sure as you think, yesterday, Monday, you spoke about Isaac, irrigation, he digging up the wells and all that. I'm sure he thought about it, even though he was a spiritual man and all that, he thought about it and came up with ways to get water from where people were not getting water. So I don't have the answer to your question, but as you think about it, I'm sure. You want to talk about it? Okay.
Okay, so the issue is, I'm also into construction, but with the way we are taught in university, it's difficult for us to go on site and let us see how this is fixed and all those things. And they will just give you the work and you look at it and you don't know your left from your right. So we took a strategy online. There are actually, what he said, avenues online where you can learn the softwares and teach you how things are done on site. Let me give my favorite 2 apps and favorite 2 websites. If you like, you can download it right now. The first one is Udemy. They give free courses and paid courses. So you can start from the free, work with the free, and when you get used to it and start paying, you can go a little further and pursue the paid ones and also improve. The second one is Coursera. That's another avenue to learn and improve your skills from the days you were taught to the current trends. Now, the websites are edx.com. That's also another avenue to learn plenty things, both free and paid. Everything you can think of. All these things. Currently, I'm also, because of ads online with increasing trends in the IT, I want to learn Python seriously. And I've started 31 days in JavaScript. It's not easy. I'm just seeing columns and things. But we are on it. And the second one too, the second one too is classcentral.com. That also is another website that can give you a whole dimension of everything you want to learn. So this is my contribution I want to add to it.
Amen. Hallelujah. What will you say to Mr. Emmanuel? Yeah.
This cybersecurity thing too can also put you off entirely. Like our boss was talking about. It may make you think that then I won't use an app from ECG, from which place or whatever place it is. The fact is that mostly the genuine ones will not give you those issues. Sometimes when you are being asked, other things pop up, and we unconsciously also see them as such. Especially for the apps, when you finish downloading, another one will come, and it looks like it is the one that you are still working on, and then you go there, then you get yourself exposed. So we shouldn't allow ourselves also, because of the security aspect, also stop using these IT stuff, because whether you like it or yes, virtually everything is moving to that, side. A time will come that even church service, you have to get an app to get it done. Even COP, we have an app where you can get daily devotions, where you can get all the news, it comes and it posts up and so on and so forth. So things are moving there, and we still need to use them. So we just have to be careful what we are clicking and whether what we are clicking is really what we want to click. May the Lord God Almighty help us.
Amen. What shall we tell our brother? God richly bless you. Amen. With the Udemy and the Coursera, you can actually get certification, okay, that you can tender in for jobs, and it works. So perhaps we can try them as. And then what Pastor said, please, for the internet and those online purchases and things, they are here to stay. So what I do, I never link my personal account to any of these websites. So they have this money wallet and all those stuff. So I just load money as and when I want to use it. So if I want to pay maybe electricity or whatever, I load it there from my bank, just that card, and that is what I use. So that in the event that maybe someone hacks it or that, I'm just losing that which is there. Because they, when you use your personal accounts, they don't just come once after, for you. They take time, before you realize, they wipe everything out. So we can use some of these things just to help us from, losing our money. Amen. So I think we have